Hello and welcome to Rolling with Reviews and more. I'm Will, and with me as always is the one who's going to breeze through this review,
Sarah.
And today we're reviewing Mythwind, as well as the expansion material, which is why the more, of Expanded Horizons, Winds of Magic, and Magical Miniatures?
I think so, and there's an event pack as well, I believe.
Yes, so some promos thrown in.
Yes.
So lots of those. If you're interested in our two-player perspective and accessibility, check out Rolling with Two Mythwind, our other video. Sarah, tell us a bit about this game.
All right. Mythwind is a cooperative, cozy board game with no win conditions that goes on for as long as the players want to explore the world. During the game, players are working together to establish and build a new town. They work to achieve various goals by constructing buildings within the town, adventuring throughout the region, navigating relationships with mysterious sprites, and developing their character-specific professions. All right, we're going to start by going over some of the gameplay and characters before getting into the rest of our normal review. Let's start with the town.
Yes, because we found that it's going to be very important when you sit down. You're going to have to commit to a particular character. Several games before you start getting into, I would call, the fun.
Yeah.
So, the main game is building the town. In there, you'll actually have a town board where you can clear out forest cards to make room for building cards. You also have 4 shared resources, which people can buy and upgrade, and all that shared just from the town. There's also adventures and events that happen in the town. And when a person goes onto a space, no one else can take that space, so you have to make sure everybody can do what they want to do in the right time.
This is a cooperative game, so you will need to work together to make sure everyone is taking an action that they want and or need to take.
Yes, but the overall structure of the game and what you're doing, and the only real pressure of the game comes from the town board because of mainly the goal and trying to accomplish it in a given season.
Correct.
But the overall structure is, in the morning, you flip up a weather card, you check whether or not a weather system happens, and that's where it checks the last 3 weather cards to see if those icons popped in a certain order and maybe something happens. Then you look at the weather card itself. It might require an event to happen, or the building row to move up, or nothing at all, or something else. And then other players' characters might have something else to do in the morning. Then you move to the main part of the day, and that's where each person will take their big figure, stick it on the town board to do something.
Yes.
That is paying to remove forests, paying to add resources, paying the resources to build a building or utilize any of the buildings you built.
Buying dice.
Buying dice, which are your little workers. And then players will do their character action. Then you do cleanup, and that is essentially returning all the workers where they need to go and setting up for the very next turn.
And some characters have something that happens during cleanup.
Right. So
yes,
that is the main game and what everybody's feeding into. It is important to note the most important thing for all the characters is the money they generate on their own character is how they feed into the main board.
Right.
So knowing how they generate money is very, very important.
Yeah. So the tricky part is balancing the fact that almost every character needs money to improve themselves. Almost. Not always, but you do.
Usually, yeah.
Usually. But you also need money then for the main town. So it is a interesting balance that you need to have there.
Yeah, it did do something also interesting with the town where, depending on which spot you go to, might align with workers versus fairies. And if sprites. And if it aligns with one of the sides, that will actually limit what a character can do on their turn.
Correct. That was a very interesting aspect.
Yeah.
It adds, unfortunately, a complexity that sometimes was difficult to remember.
Yeah.
Or it's like, well, I really needed to do the other thing, so now I have to change what action I'm doing. But anyways, So the main thing about picking a character and why this is so important is every character is basically a different way to play a game. I mean, everybody's got like a mini game. And so these are different play styles. And some of these are really going to rub people the wrong way. For example, I absolutely hated the Ranger. It was just 100% opposite of anything I actually like in games. So it's important to try to get familiar with the characters kind of before you start, because the last thing you want to do is spend the first several seasons just trying to figure out what character you like, if at all possible. I totally forgot who did these videos, but I've linked in the show notes to this YouTube channel that did in-depth...
Board Game Coffee?
Yeah, I think it was Board Game Coffee.
Yeah.
Did in-depth videos on how to play every single character. Highly recommend watching those before picking. The other thing that's going to help you is the very first page inside every character booklet has a little description and a star rating. Now, the star rating is not exactly gameplay complexity, but it is rules complexity.
Yeah. How much rules are you ready to read before playing this character? The more stars there are, the more you have to read and get down in your head.
Because when you get down to it, most of these characters aren't that complex to play, but you need to know all the rules to get everything done in the right order.
Yeah. We found the most two important parts of any character is how do they make money and what are the random elements in that character.
Right. So let's start going over the characters. So the crafter, so they refine raw materials so that they can sell the finished products to their customers.
The customer will tell you what a backpack takes. It'll take a raw material of this type at this level, of this type at this level, and these at this level. Getting those materials to those levels require you randomly pulling them out of the bag of your raw materials, and then starting to use your actions to start moving them up in refinement until they reach all the right levels, and then bam, you can sell.
Right. You can sell your raw materials, but it doesn't make you a lot of money. The money is going to really be when you fulfill that request to make that backpack, for example. Then you make money based on how good you are at making backpacks, which does improve over time.
Yes. It is important to note the two main random elements is what you draw from the bag and which customers you draw, because you can't necessarily plan for a given customer if you didn't draw them.
Yeah, they're cards, so you shuffle them up, and at the beginning of every season it tells you how many you're supposed to draw.
Yeah. Now some customers may give you the ability to draw another one, but again, you have no idea which character you're drawing.
Right, exactly. So the farmer. This is a polyomino mini game where you have to plant the crops, tend to them. You also have to manage livestock, and of course, all to make a profit.
The main aspect of this is the crops and working around these wilderness tiles. The wilderness tiles just get in your way, and you can pay to remove them. It's just at the end of a season, sprites will play tricks on you and start bringing some of them back, and that might mess up your farm. The livestock are more there as a way to power equipment. However, it does take a lot of money to buy those pieces of equipment so that then your whole farming and tending stuff becomes easier.
Right.
And all of this is all based on a big spatial puzzle that's on your tray.
Yes. And so the random aspects for this are drawing the crops out of your bag and putting them on the crop board, because the board there defines how much they cost. Otherwise, there really isn't any other random elements.
Yeah, it's also rated to be one of the easier
one,
to play.
The merchant. I'm going to let you talk about this one.
Okay, there's a lot with the merchant. So the merchant is all about cornering the market on selling 4 different items. So on your main board, you'll have basically a market summary of what anything is worth at any given time for you. You also have 2 merchants and a customer. Now, one merchant will be next to the customer, and that's going to be the active merchant. The other merchant is just going to be the next merchant that'll be active when the customer moves. But it all depends on the weather card. So the weather card will flip up if it's an event, you activate the active merchant. If it's a build icon, you activate the active customer. And each of those will have their own AI that's associated with them. The customer will say right on the card. The merchant will have an AI card that you flip up and see what they do. They will then mess with your market, which you're still trying to wrap your own resources around and try to outmaneuver these people. Now, the whole way to get the merchant better is to get the customer to buy your stuff over the merchant, or just manipulate the market in such a way where you can just sell those resources at a crazy profit and get a deal, and then take a vast amount of money to buy out a merchant, all their resources, all their money at double their value.
Yeah, something like that. So the merchant does make an incredible amount of money. The problem is they can't just spend it all on the town. You can't rely on the merchant to just do everything you need in the town, because they need a lot of it to get better at what they're doing. So that's where we're saying that balancing between the needs of your character's profession versus the needs of the town, that can be very tricky. And just because you make a lot of money doesn't mean you're Mr. or Mrs. Moneybags for the town.
Yeah, of course, this is also one of the characters that they're thinking about rebalancing because they're making too much money.
Yeah, and they can progress faster than the other characters.
I don't think so, because it takes a large amount of money just to buy out a merchant, and you need those merchants to then upgrade your character. So they'll actually probably become even slower at upgrading than any other character, even though they're making more money than most other characters.
Right.
Now, the main random element is you have no idea when the merchant will trigger or when the customer will trigger.
Right.
Because that's, again, based on your weather cards, and you have no idea what's going to get flipped up.
Pretty much. The Ranger, one of the most reactionary characters in this game. So you're basically trying to build a stockpile of tools to take with you on expeditions in the hopes that you're going to turn these tools into goods and then sell these goods for money. So again, that's...
Yeah, the nice thing is you do this during your town phase when you're staying in town and not going on an expedition. And these tool cards don't actually cost you any money.
Wait, gaining the tool cards?
Gaining the tool cards.
Right.
They don't cost you any money.
But everything else I just said is part of the expedition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, when you go on the expedition, you're not in town anymore, so you can't even help with the metagame because you're busy doing other stuff. And what that stuff is like Sarah said, very, very, very random, especially in the beginning.
So the whole thing is that each expedition card will have a number of different tool icons, and they're in a certain order from left to right, and then they have icons below each of those. You have to hope that you've organized your backpack in the same order. So if it needs an axe and a compass and a rifle in that order, you need to have an axe, a compass, and a rifle. But you don't know that that's coming. So, yeah.
Oh, in the back of the card that you do know might say an axe.
But you know that it's going to require an axe, but you don't know what position it's going to be in. And bad stuff can happen to you if you don't have things in the right order. But what you're hoping is you got it in the right order, and you can flip your tool card to goods, and then later on you'll sell. I didn't like it. I didn't get very far with the Rangers, so Yeah,
the goods cards are primarily what you end up selling and making most of your money with.
It still didn't seem like they sold for very much.
Right.
Seemed like a lot of work.
Now, once you get past this whole setup, the Ranger does have skills that let the little worker dice help you change in and out of your stockpile so that you can then react properly to any expedition card and give you a lot of room in terms of how successful you are. However, getting there is going to take a very long time.
And it's going to be frustrating for some people like me.
Yes. For the most part, it's a let's see what happens.
Right. So the randomness is almost everything that you do, because you're randomly putting tools in an order hoping that they randomly match the card. But here's the thing, your expedition usually has multiple cards. So even if you got lucky and your tools are in the right order for the first card, they will not be for the second or third card. So again, moving on to the Innkeeper. So this is a shop management type of game. You need to put out furniture and other accommodations to meet your guests' needs. And if you don't, you suffer bad things, which could be losing some money, losing some reputation. They could destroy your furniture, which really sucks. But if you do manage to meet their expectations or able to not, you can choose who to serve. So if you choose to serve the people that don't really have any bad effects, they just walk away unhappy, but they don't do anything to you. Anyways, you're trying to improve your reputation and, of course, gain more money so that you can handle more customers and higher level of customers to gain more money.
Now, it is important to note that this character is only available in the Expanded Horizons expansion.
This is the main bulk of what the Expanded Horizons expansion does for you, is it gives you this character. So the random element here is you're going to randomly pull the customers out of the bag. You also have these cards that are called gossip cards, which are twofold. One part you could put it into the adventure deck and later maybe draw it and it'll give you a benefit. But at the bottom, it also has icons that can help you when you don't have those icons in your inn. Mostly that's going to be early game to mid game because they're usually accommodation icons, not furniture, but like a kitchen or a stage or that kind of thing.
Yeah, I will say out of all the characters, I did see the Innkeeper as the one that's going to be the easiest to get to their final form.
Right. Because, I mean, we played 5 seasons, but I only played the Innkeeper 3 of those seasons.
Yes.
And by the end of the 3rd season, I'm almost, but not really done. Like
there's maybe a table or two.
There's a few more things that I could build. But yeah, that one definitely get it done. Of course, for me, I like that. That means I could just keep playing it and making money and helping actually adventure in the town. But that's just me.
Yeah, of course, this is also one of the other characters they are thinking about rebalancing because they find it to go too fast.
Too fast for them.
And it has too much money.
All right, now for some of the extra content. Winds of Magic has alternate weather tiles. So instead of needing 3 weather cards to match in a row, it's only 2. So that means the effects will trigger more often. And we did play with them. And yeah, it just does. The effects will happen more often. We found usually in a season, if you're using the original tiles, it might trigger once.
Every other game.
Yeah, like because we play a season as a game, a session, and so it seemed like they hardly ever triggered. So then it felt like, why the heck am I even bothering to track this if it's not going to happen? If it happens 1 time out of 10, that's not very good.
Yeah, because you have something like 9 or 10 weather cards. I don't remember the exact number, but that's a whole season. Yeah. And then the game has you reset, which is why we treat a season as a whole play session.
Right.
So yeah, 1 out of 10 means you're lucky if a weather pattern happens, but this does make it happen.
So highly recommend the Winds of Magic because then you'll see these weather effects. Now granted, there are 2 positive weather effects and 1 negative weather effect. So that also is something to take into consideration. You also have then a higher chance of something bad happening, usually losing resources.
Yeah. We were very clever in seeing that and like, okay, let's just make sure we don't have any of that resource.
Right.
So when we lost it, well, there's nothing to lose.
Didn't matter.
Yeah.
All right. So then otherwise it has just more other cards to shuffle in to the rest of the game. The event card pack is kind of what it says. It just adds more events. So it's more storyline to kind of put in there. And then the magical miniatures are these really adorable, cute 3D sprite miniatures that you can use instead of the flat cardboard tiles that come in the game. And that's all the content to cover. So now let's finally get to our normal part of the review of why did we get this?
Cozy game, co-op, no winner.
Seemed like a very great combination, a very different experience.
We did try Earthborn Rangers and
that didn't work for us.
That didn't work for us. It does work fantastic for others.
Yes.
And I will say, to its credit, it is stronger mechanically
Yes.
and more concise, even though it is also a bear to learn, than this game is.
Yeah.
So if you're mechanically inclined, I would definitely recommend at least looking into Earthborn Rangers.
Right. We actually, I think, backed both about the same time.
Yes.
So that's why we decided to go in for Mythwind and why we went for everything that they had. So what do we like about Mythwind?
I do like the chill factor. I don't feel pressured in having to do any one thing.
And the goal cards.
Yeah, that's the only tension, but I'm making sure that we're making smart decisions, because at the end of a season, when it's time to check the goal cards, you'll actually draw a number of goal cards and choose one. And if you built the right building, you'll even draw more, so you have more choice. And we're making sure we're choosing the smart ones, like, well, that's easy enough to finish.
Because unfortunately, if you do not meet a goal, bad things happen. So I think that, well, not to get into it, but I think that's one of the issues I have. So I will talk about that when we talk about what we don't like.
But it seems to be one of the lowest key pressures in the game that, it doesn't bother me. It bothers you, but it doesn't bother me.
The character trays and the town trays, it's just very smartly made. These are not perfect, but near perfect. They make it easier to set up. You're playing out of the trays and then you're closing it up and putting it away. It's one of the fastest setup and go games that, especially for how big it actually is.
Yeah.
It goes pretty fast.
It's a smart use of components.
Yes, agreed. So what do we not like about the game? Well, you should definitely check out our Rolling with 2 video, because there are a lot of accessibility challenges.
Yeah.
Just the text is bad. There's poor contrast. There's small text. The icons, they're not well designed. They're small. There's poor contrast. I mean, the list goes on. It's hard to learn. There's inconsistencies in the rules. And as much as it's a chill experience, well, it also takes a lot of time, which may not be what everybody wants.
Yeah, especially since we're saying you need to play a character maybe 3 times before you start getting into, oh, I see what this character's about. Well, think about the opposite side. I played 3 times and I found I really, really hate this character.
You just wasted your time.
Yes. And it just takes so long for things to develop.
I also will say that I didn't appreciate that some of the effects have negative outcomes and there's not great ways to mitigate that, or there's no way to mitigate that.
Yeah, there's like an adventure card that gets shuffled back in. Well, you make a choice, you roll a die, and, well, why'd you have me make a choice in the first place?
Yeah.
Because the whole thing's just a die roll anyway.
Yep.
That feels crummy. Whereas other times it's like I make a choice and yeah, that did matter.
Yes. So, and like with the goals, because it's just very not cozy to me to have negative outcomes when you don't manage to complete something in time or just complete something. When this game takes so much time to get anywhere, I don't think there should be negative loops. If you're going to spend this much time, just either have nothing happen or you move forward, which honestly, with how long this takes, everything should just move forward.
Yeah, I think when it comes to you playing like a cozy video game, you're not fond of deadlines.
Yes.
You rather them being structured as achievements.
Yeah.
And this is actually structured more in the deadline type of thing.
That's true. I usually avoid those type of cozy games. They're like, well, you have a year to do everything or you fail.
Right.
But yeah, so it's...
You don't like to be judged.
I don't like to be judged, but I also don't like that because it takes so long to get anything done, that if you fail to do something, it takes it away. And then you have to spend your time and resources to do it all over again.
Right.
Okay. I think, though, that pretty much covers what we don't like about the game. So who is this for?
Definitely advanced players.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of rules and a lot of minutia that you have to read. And on top of reading the main book, you also have a character book that you need to read in its entirety
Yeah.
to just know one player's how they play. Now, we did play all the characters.
Yes.
We did spend a lot of time learning this, and that was a cognitive overload.
Agreed.
So,
That's why we're trying to reinforce that you really should do your best to research which character you're going to enjoy, because if you spend the first couple of seasons building up a character and building up the town, and then you finally realize, well, I don't like this character, that means you're starting over a character from scratch in the third season while the town is still being built, but you're back at zero with your character. So it's going to take you a lot of focus to build your character up. You're not going to be helping much with the town at that point.
yeah, and another thing for who is for.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure you're the person that has plenty of time.
Yeah, you want a slower experience. You want a game that's going to take several, play sessions. We also think this is probably going to be better for lower player counts.
Oh, yeah.
So
1 to 2
1
players.
to 2 players, maybe 3. It's just the problem with some of the goals. They get tougher at 3 players, and I mean like really tough at 3 players. So you're going to be experiencing more negative situations. And yeah, just caution if you do play it at higher player counts. Some of the characters are just not going to work for some people. So if you have a play group that everybody's very, very similar, people are going to be very unhappy with trying to play certain characters.
Yeah, Sarah was getting visibly upset and mad when she was playing the Ranger.
Yeah.
I played the Ranger like, it's a thing.
You're more of an Omni gamer than I am, though.
Yeah.
So.
But it required very little effort on my part, which is why I wasn't bothered by it. And then the fact is, you're like, I don't have any player agency. Why am I even bothering?
Right. Why am I even here if I'm just flipping cards and rolling dice? Well, there's no dice, but still. Yeah. Let's move on to our ratings.
All right. For our ratings, we each have 1d6 worth of ratings to give. 1 is low, 6 is high. We give a number, a reason why, add them together, and see what it rolled for us. Sarah, what did Mythwind and all its accessories and such roll for you?
Because we played with the expanded Horizons, which includes the Innkeeper. It's the only reason I'm giving this game a 3. Otherwise, I would rate it lower because the Innkeeper is the only character I like. I know Will said I should try the farmer. I saw how it plays. I could play the farmer. I'm just not sure I'd actually really enjoy it. But yes, I could play the farmer and I would not.
But 3 games in, man, you'll really like the farmer. Maybe.
Sure,
sort
maybe.
of. I hope.
Yeah. So this game, I will just say, is on the cusp between a 2 and a 3 because this game does not respect your time. It is a game that is going to take a long time to get anywhere, and if you don't do it right, it will punish you for it, and I don't think that's cozy. So I don't feel that this deserves its cozy rating just because it's slow, because slow is not equivalent to cozy to me. Cozy is, yes, I can take my time to do things, but it's not going to disrespect my time, and I can do things at my pace. But that means sometimes I want to speed up certain aspects and sometimes I want to slow down certain aspects. So this just really doesn't give me the experience that I want, because after 1 season, you're lucky if you manage to build 1 building and maybe you added a skill. Maybe, I don't know. It took like 2 to 3 seasons on some of these characters before we even got our first skill for them.
Right.
And one of them we got a skill because the event or something. The goal gave us a skill.
The very first goal in the game.
Gave us a skill. And I'm just like, well, thank you. I wish there was more positive loops in this game overall. But after 5 plays, I think we're finally to where I think we can have fun with the game, and so I do want to keep playing. But I will say at this point, I have no interest in buying any more content for the game, because it sounds like what they're going to do is they're going to add friends and relationships, which if you're playing an ongoing video game, that's fine. But with this, if we get to a point where we've explored everything we want, I'm not restarting just to add a few characters to interact with. So for me, I think we're going to keep playing it as is with the rules that we have and probably enjoy it, but I don't think it's going to be very much longer.
Okay.
So there you go.
For me, I give it a 4. Now, I really do like a lot of what this game does. I don't mind where it has like negative player interactions with the goals, like you didn't reach it, so you're punished. Because the effort isn't as high as I've seen in other games. Like, that was my big problem with Earthborn Rangers, is there's something I can do and there are negative consequences, but I had to put in a whole ton of effort before I failed.
Yeah.
This, I barely put any effort in, like, okay, whatever, I'll move on. It doesn't bother me. Why I don't rate it higher has more to do with the accessibility issues. There's just so many inconsistencies. It's so hard to just get onto the table and learn. And if you're not the person who's learned all the things and can help everybody, then, well, you might be out of luck if someone else comes to the table joining you. And now there's a whole nother game that everybody essentially has to learn and hope it's played right. Because not all these characters aren't built equally.
No.
Some develop faster than others, and according to the designers, with them wanting to rebalance innkeeper merchants, they want slow to be the default design choice, and I don't necessarily agree with that.
Yeah.
So it's really, really hard to recommend. I do think it's probably going to be best at solo.
Yes,
honestly, because a solo player
person, is going to take their time.
Tends to take their time more, likes a lot of options, likes to dig into the minutia a lot more.
Yeah.
2 players just happens to be handy because then you have 2 brains trying to tackle things. What do they mean by this? I don't know. Well, let's write down the pros and cons and check out the FAQ.
Yep.
So 4 is in spite of the game fighting me against it all the way. And like Sarah says, it does take a lot of effort to get into where the game starts feeling really fun.
And I think the other thing I forgot to say is, for all this that we're doing, there's very little narrative that comes through. And it's supposed to be a story. And I don't feel like that's happening. So, anyways. We're at 7 out of 12.
7 out of 12. That's a rough score.
Yeah, it could be lower, it could be higher, but that's where we are today.
Yeah, and I'm going to stress, I do like the game. I do like the game. It's just it has problems.
Yep, agreed.
All right, Sarah.
Yeah.
So, you already kind of talked about what cozy means to you. If someone was going to be designing a cozy game, what would be the tent poles that you want to see in that?
Well, see, the thing that I've learned, because I've been playing more cozy video games over the last several years for, a variety of reasons, cozy does mean different to a lot of different people.
Yeah.
And the games that are highest rated amongst the most players are the ones that give you options on how you play your game. So my tent poles aren't, you have to have X, Y, and Z in it. No, you should have ways to, how do they call it?
Express yourself.
Not just express yourself, but make the game play the way you want to. So like some of the games where we're like, you can choose to put this in instead of this. Or, like how sometimes they have a family-friendly variant versus a normal variant versus a difficult variant.
Yeah, the play how you want.
The play how you want. So I think the key is, since people define cozy differently because they like different things, make it variable so that if they don't want a slow experience, they can build things faster. If they do want a slow experience, they can do it slower. If they don't want something to be a challenge, then it's just something that happens. But if they do want that challenge, so for example, in video games with fishing, the best video game I've seen so far do that is Wildflowers, because you can turn something on and off in the settings that says easy fishing or hard fishing. And so you have the best of both worlds, because the people who want a challenge at fishing can have their challenge fishing. And for those who want it simple, they can have it simple.
Yeah, which is probably why it's such a hard thing to design a cozy board game.
Yes, that is true.
Because it's a mess of work.
I would agree.
All right. And that'll do it for us. And we've been Rolling with Reviews.
With reviews.
That too. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach out to us on the various social media platforms at
Rolling with Two, that's TWO. We're on Blue Sky, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Discord, we have a channel on Tabletop Express. Check the show notes for the invite link.
If you have time, check out the other content Nanaman has found for you, because remember, he's rolling with you.